Yeah, I got timer. I just had myself on mute.
Okay.
Yep, I'll start it whenever you two get into it.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 20. And this episode, we're joined by a very special guest. We have of CBS Sports, from a draft and prospects writer for the NHL for ESPN. We have joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris M. Peters. Chris, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Well, thank you for joining us. And where are you calling from right now?
You know, I didn't quite catch that. What'd you say?
Where are you dialing in from right now?
Oh, shoot. On me a little bit.
Is it laggy?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick, your voice is kind of...
Yeah, same. I just wasn't sure if it was me. I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah.
But...
Is it laggy?
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds like robot-y kind of.
Robot.
Yeah, exactly. You might... I don't know about you two, but it kind of came in... It started like right away with the intro even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fine ever since.
Okay,
We kind of
slid
paused.
my computer on a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to redo that part real quick.
Yep. That's fine.
All right, 3, 2. Hello, Jesus. All right, 3, 2. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the November 29th edition of the Go With The Flow podcast. I'm Nick, joined by my line mates Kevin Bartman and Dan Meritz. Very special guest on today's episode. And prospects journalist for ESPN, formerly worked at and he is Chris Peters. You can follow Chris at Chris M. Peters on Twitter. And Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Good to be with you.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. We're always excited whenever it follows future talent in the NHL. One of the most exciting prospects in a long time is Dahlen, 17-year-old defenseman out of Sweden. He seems like somewhat of an obvious lock pick in the draft. And the Karjala Cup is coming up pretty soon. Is there any opportunity for him to slide into that Swedish Olympic roster?
You know, I think there is a good one. I think they kind of have given him a shot. I wonder how much of it is going to depend on the World Juniors, if that's going to be if that's going to play into the evaluation process. I think there's even some talk out there of certain young players that may not play in the World of their Olympic hopes or already being part of the team. The thing about Sweden is I think they're pretty cautious with their young guys. And as good as Dahlen is, and I certainly believe that among the players available to Sweden, he is one of probably the best available, one of the most talented. But going into an Olympic tournament, it requires a lot of maturity. And his last time out at the World Juniors, he didn't actually get the trust of his coach, which I think was a problem. That was.
What the fuck is going on?
Jesus Christ.
It just kicked me off the fucking call for no reason.
Me too.
Nick, you're muted. This is fucking bullshit, dude. It must have kicked all four of us.
Do
Yeah.
I need to re-invite him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone got kicked out.
We all got kicked, I think, simultaneously.
We're gonna have to re.
Jesus, not a good look right now.
No. I hate this shit when it doesn't work because it's obviously not our fault, but at the same time, it's like aggravating.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I don't know. Well, the video, we play off each other's. I was thinking maybe the video had something to do with it because we're all.
Invite him again.
Well, the three of us, I don't know.
Might be my internet.
It's fucking stupid.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
All right, we working?
Hopefully. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I thought it was just me that got kicked, and then I came back and everybody kind of realized it was everybody all at the same time. Apologies.
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we had you with the Dahlin part where you were saying that Sweden was cautious with their young defensemen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you mind picking up there? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Do you want to
wait, is this,
go from the top, or do you want to?
Is it still the same broadcast, Nick?
It is.
If it's the same broadcast, then I can just I can put the parts together.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. All righty.
All right. So you want me to?
Yeah. If you just want to, I'm sorry about that. If you could continue, and we'll just edit it.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So Sweden is typically pretty cautious with their young players, and they're specifically the World Juniors last year is a really good example of that. Dahlin actually was one of their best defensemen, yet the coach didn't really have enough faith to play him in the big situations. So that's why I think that this year's World Juniors potentially could have a large impact on whether or not he ends up playing, because I think Sweden is going to be among a very crowded field, but I think that they're going to be one of the top teams in the tournament and a threat to win gold. They've really struggled when it comes to the games that count most at this level. And so that's where you need to kind of see what you have with these young players. So specifically with Dahlin, I think that he's got a great chance to make the Olympic team, but there's so much that is left to be determined. But I do think eventually, I don't know enough about, the kind of the process that Sweden has been in, but I think that there are going to be some young players on their roster. And I think Dahlin probably should be one of them based on what we know about the talent they have. And especially because you look at the Swedish defensemen currently in the NHL, those guys are just so difficult to replace, even when everybody else has to deal with the same problems.
Yeah, I was going to ask, would you have a comparison for him in terms of a current NHL player? I think an easy one to say is Carlson, just based on how good offensively he is. Would you have someone else to say maybe? Yeah, Carlson.
Yeah, I don't, as skilled as he is, I don't know that I've never felt like Carlson was the right comparison for him, because Dahlin's a bigger player. He's physically stronger. He's a little bit more physical. But yeah, and I don't think he is. I don't know that he possesses the same kind of vision as Carlson and distribution skills as Carlson. But certainly to me, it's tough. It's tough to find comparisons. I tend not to like doing it because I think that we often get into this kind of rut. And I think Carlson's a good example. There are about 5 or 6 defensemen in this draft that could potentially be compared to Erik Karlsson, and it's just because they're really good, dynamic offensive players. And the guy that actually might compare most favorably to Karlsson is either Quinn Hughes or Adam Boquist, who are of the undersized variety. I mean, when Karlsson was drafted, he was a string bean, and really, he's still not a huge guy, but he is obviously able to handle the NHL grind and certainly excel at a high level. So, but I guess, I think he's, to me, it's tough to say in terms of comparisons. And we also kind of get into the rut of comparing guys against their own nationality. So I think it's hard to find a true comparison for him. I think he's pretty unique in terms of what we've seen out of defensemen. You think about guys that went first overall, like Aaron Ekblad. I think that there are more dynamic elements in Rasmus Dahlin's game. So I think that he's going to be very different than we've seen from more recent prospects, including Carlson, who we're now about 10 years removed from his draft year.
Yeah, that's a pretty thorough and awesome explanation there on Dahlin. That's pretty exciting that he's more than possibly just a Carlson, which is scary to think about. Where well-rounded defenseman, and Carlson obviously got some criticism early in his career for the way he played inside his own blue line, but obviously he's prospered long since then. Even doing some unbelievable work in the playoffs with the broken heel, I believe it was. So Dahlin, obviously, that's a guy that any team would savor over. But it's early right now in the season. But which of the teams that are looking like top 5 pick or so do you think Dahlin would be an exciting fit for? Obviously, like I said, he's a guy that fits well anywhere. But what's a landing spot you think where he would definitely flourish?
I think really anywhere he would be great. But I think the team that probably needs him the most is Buffalo. I think their blue line is not great. In terms of just depth, dynamic. I think Ristolainen is a fine defenseman. Is he a long-term number one? I don't think so. I think Rasmus Dahlin is, and if you have both of those guys on your roster, you're in pretty darn good shape, and you've suddenly your depth problem becomes less problematic. So I think of all the places he could end up, Buffalo could be the place where he'd be the most helpful. It's weird to see Edmonton where they are right now, but clearly that's another team that could use another defenseman, that could use a more dynamic element on their back end, and that's what Dahlin would do. I think he with the forwards that they have, to have a player that can get the puck up ice, to have a player that can join the rush from that back end, he would be a great player there. So I think if you're any of the teams right now in the league where you look at Nashville and you say, okay, look at that D-core and look at what they have. Roman Josi is one of the most dynamic offensive players. PK Subban has become an elite two-way defenseman. Us kind of got sucked in by his offense, but we've seen truly how valuable he is defensively. So you have a really diverse set of talents back there, and then at the bottom of the lineup, he's hurt still, but when he comes back, Ryan Ellis, another dynamic talent towards in the top 4. So that's kind of blue line you want to try to build, and you need that centerpiece defenseman, and I think that's what Rasmus Dahlin is, and he's, to me, one of those players that I don't necessarily know that he would be a huge impact in his first year, but he's the kind of guy that could really grow into a blue line and just continue his development trajectory, which has been ahead of schedule because he's physically developed, but also he's just got such a great offensive mind, and I think there's going to be a learning curve still coming over to North America, as there almost always is. As some guys handle it better than others, but I think he's the kind of guy where he's going to step into your lineup and you're going to be better, and he'll just continue to improve, and eventually when he hits his prime, it's going to be something else.
Just real quick off your point about Buffalo being a fun spot for him and moving the puck up ice to some good forwards. Obviously, they have Middlestat and Nylander coming up too, so they could have a quick turnaround. On top of getting possibly a 1A goaltender at some point.
Yeah, there's still I think Jason Botterill has a ton of work to do in Buffalo yet, and this is a team that should be well on its way or done rebuilding at this point, where they've got the pieces in place. I still don't know if Nylander and Middlestat are going to be the kind of guys that put them over the top, and I think they need to let Middlestat stick around in college for a little bit. What I've seen so far is a player that's been very good, but I want to see a player that dominates at the college level, and right now he's not. He's just very good, which is still great. I mean, for a kid his age, for coming straight, doing part USHL, part high school last year. I think he's been very good, and I fully expect him to play a big role for Team USA at the World Juniors. But Buffalo still has work to do to continue building. You're exactly right. Getting that goaltender is going to be key. So that's another thing that you kind of got to keep an eye on and see what they can do. But to be done. But if you can get a Rasmus Dahlin, suddenly, you've got your Jack Eichel, your Rasmus Dahlin, and then can you find that 1A goaltender that gets you through?
Yeah, Chris, just kind of shifting the conversation a little bit. You mentioned World Juniors and whatnot, and everybody knows obviously the Olympics now are kind of coming around the corner. And so just kind of wanted to get your take on it with, obviously no NHL players, possibly no KHL players. That's a lot of players that none of us, the average viewer has seen. So we kind of just wanted to pick your brain on, who should viewers be looking for during the Olympics. If you want to be bold and, kind of pick a gold medal game, maybe a dark horse, it's like 3 questions rolled into one, but, I just want to get your thoughts on the Olympics.
Yeah, I'll try and I'll pick that apart a little bit and just kind of like, just to start with piece it together. The whole KHL thing is really weird. If the KHL doesn't end up going, this is going to be the worst hockey tournament that has ever been put on national television. I mean, it would be a joke. And I think that'd be really unfortunate if that's the way that it ends up playing out. I don't think it will. There's enough momentum at this point to essentially get a Russian team in there. And if Russia is in, far and away the most talented top to bottom team that would be in the tournament. So I would, if the KHL is going, I think Russia is a no doubter for gold. And then I would say my dark horse is Finland for the gold medal game, just because in a tournament where, there's not a ton of depth of talent, Finland's structure as a national team program, just from top to bottom, they're always one of the most sound defensive teams. They play team defense. They are frustrating to play against. They get decent goaltending. They've got guys with international experience available to them, and guys that play, in the Finnish league mostly. Some of the guys that play in the KHL for Jokerit, they're going to be quite good. So the guy that really stands out to me for Finland is Eeli Tolvanen, who's a Nashville Predators draft pick, and if he ends up going to the Olympics, if the KHL sends their players, I think he's going to be a potential force in that tournament just because of how dynamic he is as a scoring talent. He's already put together one of the best U20 scoring seasons we've ever seen in the KHL, and it's only November.
Didn't he have a hat trick in his first game or something?
He did, yeah, he did. I'm pretty sure it was his first game, and he continues to produce at an alarming rate. So yeah, but I think so. He's definitely the top, one of the top prospects to watch. Another guy that I think will be there is Miro Heiskanen he's a Dallas Stars draft pick. He's doing incredibly well right now, and also. Why I'm blanking on his I can't remember. So I'll come back to that one. But yeah, so those guys, I think for the US, you've got Troy Terry, who's an Anaheim Ducks draft pick, was the hero at the World Juniors last year. I think he's a no doubter to make it for Team USA. He's one of the top scorers in college hockey this season. Won a national championship with Denver last year on top of winning the World Juniors. So he's just got that pedigree. I think we'll see multiple college players on Team USA. If the KHL doesn't go, we'll see more than a few, maybe even half the team as college players, or possibly, some guys that are on AHL only contracts as well. So I think there's a couple of options there. But yeah, this is kind of an interesting situation with the way that things are going right now in terms of what we're going to get out of the Olympics. I don't know exactly, what we're going to see. And I don't know that the U.S. team is going to be all that great. They went winless in the Deutschland Cup, which was the only international tournament that they played in prior to the Olympics. Not getting a single win and having two of the teams in that tournament are also going to be in USA's bracket or group in the Olympics, except Russia sent their B team to the Deutschland Cup, but they still couldn't beat those guys. So, I mean, that's a real cause for concern. So, and also before it's coming back to me, I don't know how I forgot this, but Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks, he's the other prospect that I think is a no-doubter. He'll play for Sweden at the Olympics. He's currently got 29 points in 22 games in the Swedish Hockey League, and it is the highest scoring on a points per game basis, the highest scoring season in that league since Peter Forsberg at that age. So that is ridiculous. So I think that those are the types of players and prospects that we're going to see in the Olympics that are at least going to keep it interesting and keep hockey fans engaged.
All right, Chris, I'm going to have to switch gears on you again here, but
go for it.
So one of the more interesting storylines that we've covered on this podcast, at least since the beginning of the year, has been the Edmonton Oilers. We saw last year they kind of, overperformed with McDavid, finally playing his first full year, and we saw them finish strong in the playoffs. And then pretty much since the start of the year, it's been a huge mess. So can you kind of talk about, what's going on up in Edmonton, what to expect soon? Are they going to turn around? They got to get some more scoring we've seen. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, what a disappointment. I mean, really, they are. It's incredibly disappointing to see a team that had built up so much goodwill last year and just fall flat on its face this year. And it goes to show you how important it is to continue to build around your core players. Obviously, you have McDavid, you have Draisaitl. They're going to be sucking up a lot of that money. But you needed to surround them with better forwards, and they haven't done that. In fact, they've been shedding forwards. Losing Taylor Hall, Adam Larson was fine last year, not going as well this year. Long term, how does that help that team? Jordan Eberle getting traded for Ryan Strome. That's another player that you've just let go for. You're not getting fair value back again. So that's really that's on management. And that's on Peter Chiarelli. And then on top of that, I think Greg Wyshynski, who I work with at ESPN, brought up a very good point that Todd McClellan has not really put together a system that works with this team. The other thing that kind of drives me nuts about the Oilers is that, we see how fast McDavid is, and then the rest of the team is not that fast. They don't have a lot. They don't have great wheels on that group. Outside of a few players, and so you can't win in the NHL without a good skating team. And Taylor Hall is a tremendous skater. Jordan Eberle is a tremendous skater. Or at least offensively they're able to get things going. And I don't think that you could have kept everybody on that, especially with the way that McDavid was going to have to be paid. And I think that they certainly spent more than they probably should have on Draisaitl earlier than they should have. But that's the way it goes. So I don't think, I don't think there's an easy way out of this for Edmonton. I think they've got good players. They've got a few good prospects, but most of their best young talent is on their NHL roster. So there's a lot of work to be done. Now you have to wonder, is it going to be Peter Chiarelli's job to fix it? Or are we seeing a pattern here where he is continually letting young talent go and not getting enough in return? And do you trust him to find a way to fix it at this point?
Yeah, and then another guy that Edmonton, that we've seen develop in recent years is Jesse Puljujärvi, who's been kind of a disappointment, so to speak. So do you have any idea how his development's going, if we can expect him, to sort of bolster that offense?
Yeah, he's an interesting player because I think coming out of the Finnish league, I was super high on him. And especially in his the World Juniors, leading Finland to gold and just being a completely dominant player. What we've seen for him in particular is that the skating is an issue, and that's a hard thing to fix. It's not, some guys can find an extra gear. I think John Tavares is a great example of a guy who's improved as a skater in the NHL. And so that's tough to fix. And so I don't know necessarily if they can, but what I think he still has, he's got a really good hockey brain. He knows where to be. He knows how to get to the scoring areas. He's able to make make plays still. And so I think what the situation is that Edmonton probably should have, I think they've had to call him up out of necessity, but I think it wouldn't have hurt to keep him marinating in the AHL. And I think it's too early to call him a disappointment. He's certainly disappointing relative to the other players that were drafted around him and what we saw from him as a prospect. And I think that, the fact that he didn't come into the league like Matthews or Laine, or even now Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's really coming on strong for the Columbus Blue Jackets. It was a huge shock when the Blue Jackets passed on Puljujarvi, especially since they have a Finnish general manager. But that tells you a lot about Puljujarvi. The Finnish general manager passed on one of the kids that seemed to be one of the elite Finnish talents out there. So I think do not write Jesse Puljujarvi off yet, but certainly the Oilers have some work to do, and they're not really in a position as an organization to spend enough time fixing whatever, or maximizing his development. But I still think, he can learn at the NHL level. So I'm certainly not writing him off at all.
Those same lines. Yeah, we good?
Oh yeah. Chris, I was just gonna say. Actually, can we cut that just real quick? Because
you're Dan. I'm gonna go.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead. My bad.
Then you go after. Yeah, no problem. Just give Kevin the time right now.
Yeah. Kev, we're at 24 minutes, 10 seconds.
All right. I'm ready to go if you guys are.
My bad, Nick.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, Chris. So going along the same lines of guys, and sometimes guys are quick developers. Sometimes guys are late bloomers. Interesting case study with Barzal over in Brooklyn, New York for the Isles. Barzal was picked in the mid-teens in 2015. Snow and company elected to leave him in the WHL in Seattle for an extra year, and it seems to be paying dividends from a general standpoint. Do you think it's going to be a new trend among potentially leave guys or college an extra year? We've obviously seen Chiarelli, who had Yamamoto on the opening night roster. For curious if this Barzal situation kind of tinkers the way GMs handle young forwards.
I think every situation is different, so I don't know that it's necessarily going to start a trend. The Isles gave Barzal a shot last year, and gave him an opportunity to kind of show what he could do at the NHL level, and I think they made the absolute right decision in sending him back. He wasn't quite ready, and that's one of the nice things that you have is that benefit of giving those guys a couple of games, and just as we saw with Yamamoto at the beginning of this year. And just see where they're at and see how they adjust the pace. So we also see it with kind of some guys at the end of the season, like Clayton Keller got 2 games at the end of last season after playing a full college season. And so, you give those guys that opportunity, not just because you believe that they can play at the NHL level, but you want to give them that taste. And then you have that safety net of being able to send them down. In Keller's case, he could have started the year in the AHL. Obviously, he didn't need to. But I think that particularly with what we're seeing, a lot of NHL teams are starting to draft more guys on the college track. And one of the reasons they do that is that some of those guys, they might not be the highest end talent, but they have more time to develop. The NHL team doesn't have to spend a contract on that player because that he can just stay in college and they'll retain his draft rights, for 4 years, if it even goes that long. So we've seen some teams have kind of strategized that way, so that they can delay kind of having to bring those guys up too soon. In a case of a guy like Barzal, he was highly touted in his draft season, and oddly, picked with the draft choice that the Edmonton Oilers gave up. So that imagine him on that roster now. That'd be something. But anyway, Barzal, has to develop. And I think that he was able to play in the World Juniors. He was excellent at the World Junior Championship last year. Very high on him coming into the season. It's a long-winded way of saying I don't think that this is necessarily going to change the way that GMs think about things. But it does give them a little bit of added incentive. One thing that I've come to realize over the last couple of years, which it took me a long time to get there, but it's like if you send a guy back to the AHL or to their junior team, or if you do like the Arizona Coyotes did and send Dylan Strome down to the AHL to get some more seasoning, that's only going to help that player. It's not going to hurt them. It's not necessarily going to skyrocket their development, but it's not going to hurt their development because they're in a place where they're playing, they're getting opportunities that would not come at the NHL level, and that's more important than just being on the NHL roster. So I think we need to kind of take a step back sometimes when we see that happen and say, oh, this player hasn't really failed as a prospect, or this player hasn't, he's just not ready. And they're giving it a better opportunity to be ready and in a better position to succeed, which I think is extremely important.
Yeah, Chris, kind of on that, just wanted to talk about how surprised you are by Will Butcher's play. You're kind of just talking about the AHL and whatnot and seasoning. But, here's a guy, rookie. He's got 2 goals, 16 assists, +7, and he's not an overly big defenseman, but yet he's found a way to kind of thrive within the Devils system, and kind of retain his spot.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's doing as well as he is. I'm not surprised that he's been able to contribute at the NHL level. I think, he's a player I've been very familiar with over the last 5 years. I saw him at the national team program, saw him through 4 years of Denver, saw just how smart of a player he is. This is a guy that played among one of the elite under-18 championship teams that I've ever been around. And that was he was on the same defensive core as an underager as Seth Jones, Jacob Trouba, Brady Shea, Patrick Seeloff. He was on that team. They only gave up 4 goals in the entire under-18 championship. And so he's been a high-end prospect for a long time. But what happened at Denver is I think he got exposed a little bit. A lot of the deficiencies in his game kind of, appeared where he wasn't as great defensively. He wasn't seemingly as aware. He was too focused on the offense. But over those 4 years, he really developed, and I think he found a perfect landing spot in the Devils when he had that decision to whether or not to sign with Colorado. I think he made the right call in not signing there based on the way that he was treated, and then goes to the Devils, and he's in a situation where he can make an immediate impact. And I thought for sure that he would spend some time in the AHL this year. But I didn't think he would be there for very long based on the Devils' needs. And so to see what he's been able to do, they've certainly put him in a position to succeed. I think his minutes are managed extremely well. He's getting a lot of power play time, which is where he's going to be the most deadly. He is, getting opportunities to explore his creativity. They have not put reins on him. They have not made him change who he is as a player. And we've seen some of his incredible assists even in the last week, where he's just make these incredible rushes and he's deking guys out and he's taking guys at the blue line. He's making clean. And he's doing all these different things really, really well. So, but how he's able to do that is completely based on the fact that he is an incredibly smart hockey player, and he always has been. It just took a little bit of time and a little bit more development. He had a great coach at Denver, Jim Montgomery, who I think probably within the next couple of years will be on an NHL bench as a head coach. I think he should be. He's easily one of the best coaches in college hockey, one of the best coaches in North America right now. So I think that helps, and just to see what he's been able to accomplish this year has been really intriguing to watch. So I'm surprised he's been this good, but not surprised that he's been able to contribute at a pretty good level.
New Jersey's been a total surprise to start the year, and a guy that kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, they have Nico Hershiser, who was the number 1 overall pick in our backyard here in Chicago. But Jesper Bratt got off to a hot start. I mean, can you just talk a little bit about the Devils, because they've been a team that's known to be pretty boring in the past, but it seems like Hines has got him rolling a little bit.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I've always thought of John Hines as a guy who, since he's so detail oriented, that he would want a team that plays a really structured brand of hockey. But he's really let this team kind of play loose. And I think that makes a huge difference. And it allows guys like Hischier and Bratt to make an impact right away. And now Bratt is a complete surprise. I mean, the fact that he was a 6th-round draft pick playing in the NHL a year after he was drafted, 2016 draft pick. I mean, this never happens that a teenager drafted in the 6th round. I think it's been over 20 years since the last time a player that was drafted as low as he was made it to the NHL as a teenager. And then the fact that he comes in and he's a brilliant producer. He's also one of the leading rookies among penalty killers. So penalty killing, he's used in all situations, which is just mind-boggling, because that you aren't supposed to be able to do that. So it's credit to him for sticking with his development. Maybe everybody missed on him. I don't really know. I didn't cover the lower levels of the draft at that point, so I wasn't real familiar with him. And so now to see what he's been doing, it is a complete surprise. And I think that the Devils as a whole, we don't know how long they're going to be able to sustain this. I think their blue line is a little bit suspect, and they've got some issues, with depth. But I think they are fun to watch, and it's because that they've really been allowed to utilize their skill, to utilize their speed, and it's catching teams off guard. And then you also need Corey Schneider to be really good too, and that helps. And to have a goaltender that you can trust, you can play a little looser. And so I think that's what we're seeing from the Devils.
The three of us are all from the Chicago area, obviously. We just had the draft at the United Center back in June. And two guys that are two interesting picks for us that we're kind of keeping our eye on are Ian Mitchell out of Denver, and obviously Jokiharju. Could you kind of give us your early take on them and what you thought of those picks for Chicago?
Yeah, well, Jokiharju has been one of the leading scorers in the WHL among defensemen this year, and he's scoring at a higher rate than he did last year. And I think we'll see him at the World Juniors playing a pretty significant role for Finland. I haven't had a chance to see him in person yet, or even on video yet. I haven't really. Portland has mostly guys that are already drafted, and I've been spending more time on the draft eligibles. But from everything that I've heard so far, he's right on track in terms of development, in terms of where he's going. What's expected of him. He's right where he should be. I think the Blackhawks are in a situation now where they probably need help on the blue line in the near future. And I don't know exactly, how quickly they would be able to, get him in there into that mix. But he's certainly a guy that really really fascinates me on a lot of levels, just because I'm not as familiar with him in terms of actual live views. So I'm excited to see what happens when he's at the World Juniors. I think that's going to be a big deal. So I think that Jokiharju is going to be an exciting talent, and based on his current development trajectory, again, this is more based on hearing it, just fine. And I think he's going to be a really, really strong prospect. To me, one of Chicago's top prospects right now. So I think that he's certainly going to figure prominently in their plans. And then as far as Mitchell goes, I have had a chance to see him. I haven't seen Denver live, but I've watched them on video a lot. And I think that he is a really impressive young player. I think that he's very confident. He already has 11 assists this year for Denver. And they've given him a lot of responsibility. And as I mentioned with Will Butcher, he's playing for Jim Montgomery. Now, Jim Montgomery was a high-scoring forward back in his days. He was with Paul Kariya, and they just absolutely ripped apart the NCAA. But his teams play with great structure. They play defensively. They play great defense without sacrificing the offense. They're a high-paced team. They certainly are focused on attacking and putting the puck up ice. So I think Mitchell is a really good fit for that, and he's really played well in that system. He's a guy that you can leave in college and let him marinate for 3-4 years, and you're not going to have to work. I don't think there's any reason to rush him or anything. I assume a player like him probably ends up staying for 3. and gets an opportunity to, jump in either to, depending on his readiness, the NHL or the AHL level after that. So I think that's a guy that if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, you're really pleased with the way that he's being utilized in Denver and what he has shown so far. And the fact that a coach like Jim Montgomery trusts him with as much responsibility as he's given him this year is a great sign for things to come with Ian Mitchell.
All right, Chris, final one here. So we couldn't help but notice in your Twitter bio, your header photo is Team North America. Obviously, one of the more exciting teams that at least I've seen in recent years. So in your expert opinion, can we expect to see another, U23 team in the World Cup, or are countries going to start want to take, their best players rather than, put them on a separate team?
Yeah. As an American, I certainly hope the best young players are on Team USA. But as a fan of hockey, you can't stop watching Team North America. Was the most fun I had in that entire season. It certainly didn't help that I lost my job during that season too at CBS. But that whole thing was so fun to watch, and I just think of the speed, the skill, Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews on the same line. I mean, it was so great. And the other thing that I thought about that team is it showed kind of where the league is going. And you look at the young players in the NHL now, and the U23 team would still probably be one of the best teams and most exciting teams in that tournament. A lot of those guys would still be on it. I think in a couple of years, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think that as much fun as those guys had on Team North America, I think guys like Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews would prefer to represent their countries. I just don't even know what the World Cup's going to look like in terms of, is it going to happen? Because we still don't know where things are going to go with that tournament. And I think from outside of Team North America, I took no enjoyment. You had their games, unfortunately, didn't make the playoff round. And I thought it was kind of a dud of a tournament. So, outside of that, and it's not just because Canada won. I mean, we all assumed that they would anyway, but it was just, there just wasn't a lot there that made me real excited. So I think that, it makes this Olympics especially disappointing because we would have seen so many of these young players, and especially for Team USA. I think that this would have been the most talented U.S. team that we would have seen since the '98 Nagano team that was just awful and didn't, or maybe I should say 2002. That was a pretty good team too. So, I mean, we're talking about one of the best opportunities for the U.S. to challenge Canada for gold, and it's not going to happen. And we're going to get, a lesser tournament out of it. So, yeah, so Team North America, the long story short, Team North America is the greatest team ever assembled, and I love them, and I wish I could adopt them all, and that would be really great. And I even if they don't bring back Team North America, if they could let that team play like 2 or 3 exhibition games anywhere in the world, I will go see them. So, I think the reunion tour has to happen.
I just remember watching that USA team completely lay an egg in those 3 games, and I was thinking to myself, I don't think John Tortorella's cut it for modern hockey anymore. And then you look and see what he's done in Columbus since then. So
I think it was a good learning experience for him. I think it helped him, and I think he would say that too.
For sure. Well, Chris, we can't thank you enough. You're so gracious with your time, and the boys and I had a riot. Folks at home, like I said before, you can follow Chris at Chris M. Peters. And you can read all of his absolutely dynamic content on ESPN.com. Chris, thank you again for coming on. We'd love to have you again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. It was real fun.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Right, awesome.
Yeah, thanks a ton.
All right, Kev. We're at 41:55 as of right now.
41:55. Okay.
Yep.
All right. That was awesome.
I didn't even say bye. That was fucking beautiful.
That was fun.
I was not expecting that fucking when I
had no choice, but I
lost
my job.
I was like, oh shit. That was good though. That was a good fucking podcast.
Yeah, so that was like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't even need to do we can just sort of do it. Well, yeah, like we can do an intro.
Should we do
an outro?
Yeah, I was thinking if we want to get this what the puck thing going, we should probably mix it in somehow.
We should do it at the end.
Yeah.
But in my intro, we definitely have an intro where I introduce him.
Well, but then you fucked up, and then we had to start over. So I'm gonna have to
Isn't this the same broadcast though, or the same hangout? So
it is.
Didn't you say you could put it together or whatever, Kev?
Yeah, I can do that.
I mean, whatever's easier. I just wasn't sure.
Here, I'll just do another one right now, just in case.
Okay.
What do you want me to say,
intro?
Kevin?
Another intro?
Yeah, just Dan, give him the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're at 43 and 12 seconds. 43 minutes, 12 seconds.
All right.
43 minutes, 12 seconds. All right, 1 second.
Should I just do the whole go with the flow, main intro?
Yeah, just do the intro.
And should I say hi, Chris, what's going on?
No. What you could do is you can do what you did with Chief and just be like, we have a very special interview with Chris Peters, blah, blah, blah. And then just sort of lead into that, here's the interview.
Yeah, we now welcome on. We're going
to.
Okay, I got it. All right.
Yeah, okay.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the November 29th edition of the Go With The Flow podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my line mates, Kevin Bartman and Dan Merritz. And for the folks at home, we have a very exciting guest today. We're not going to spend too much time, bullshitting before we – fuck, I don't want to cuss. Damn it. I'll start over again.
All right, time. Dan, what's the time?
Sorry, I had to deny a phone call. I couldn't. 44 minutes, 27 seconds.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the November 29th edition of the Go With The Flow podcast. I'm Nick, joined as always by my partners and line mates, Kevin Bartman and Dan Merritz. For the folks at home, we have a very exciting guest that we're going to bring on in just a split second. He is Chris Peters, formerly of CBS and USA Hockey, and currently I fucked up. Because I didn't load I clicked the wrong thing.
Were you looking up what he actually does?
Yeah, I have his Twitter open. All right, I'm doing it one more time. All right.
Time?
One more time. Sorry, boys. I'm trying to watch this Hawks game, too.
Time is 45 minutes, 18 seconds.
What's the score, by the way?
It was 2-1 last I saw Nashville.
Fuck. All right. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the November 29th edition of the Go With The Flow podcast. I'm Nick, joined as always by my line mates, Kevin Bartman and Dan Merritz. Fellas, how you doing?
Not too bad, too bad. What's going on, boys?
Well, for the folks at home, we have a little bit of an exciting episode because we have a very special guest on for this episode. We have from ESPN, formerly of CBS Sports and USA Hockey. He is currently a NHL draft and prospects analyst for ESPN. We have Chris Peters, who dialed into the show. So we're going to get to him in a split second. But Chris came on and just gave a hell of an interview. Went over a lot of prospects and young guns currently performing. Some guys, not so much, and some teams are in disarray, and some teams have a bright future. And Chris and our team here kind of go through quite a few teams in the league, and obviously we touched on what seems to be obvious lock for the number 1 pick, Rasmus Dahlin. So without further ado, here's Chris Peters.
All right, that'll work.
You guys got to have your mics muted next time.
Could you hear shit?
Not too much.
Okay, that'll be fine.
I muted mine halfway through, hopefully, yeah.
All right, Kevin, my voice is hurting. Can you introduce What the Puck? Can you just?
Yeah, well, we got to decide what the puck is first.
I'm doing Gudis.
All right, what's our time at now?
Right now is 47 minutes, 8 seconds.
Kevin, just say we're just going to wrap it up say, like, Chris spent quite a bit of time with us. We're just going to wrap it up for this week with our What the Puck segment, and I'll start us off, and then,
All right, wait, I got to find out What the Puck, though.
A lot of suspensions.
Yeah, that's true. They're cracking down on slashing, which is bullshit.
Yeah, that's exactly what my What the Puck was going to be, the slashing rule.
All right.
He already DM'd us. He DM'd us. He said, "Thanks, guys. Nice. He said, thanks, guys. That was fun. Let me know when it's up, and I'll retweet."
Beauty. What a fucking beauty. Who just got suspended for like 10 games, Kevin?
That's Gudis. That's Gudis.
Oh, that is okay. My B.
Tag and buzz you in
Mobby.
Tag you in the tweet. And drop it. What should I tell him? Should I give him a rough idea?
Of what?
Like when it's going to be edited tomorrow?
Yeah, tell him it should be up around like maybe like fucking 2:30. Dude, I have no idea what to do.
There was like the Chuck slash.
Well, I mean, that's what Dan's doing about is slashing.
Well, never mind. I was going to say, I was just going to talk about the Schmaltz incident against Tampa. But I guess that would be us covering two things in one, or two of us covering one What the Puck thing, so.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're going to pick.
I could say, like, Matthew Tkachuk, he has drawn 14 games worth of suspensions.
Perfect.
That sounds good.
That's not even like a disappointing thing. It's kind of awesome. So
why don't you just say, why do you guys let him get under your skin?
Yeah. All right, I got it. That'll work.
Dan, what are you doing?
I'm doing the slashing, the bullshit slashing rules.
Okay. Kevin, you go first. Dan, go second. I'll do it, and then
okay.
I'll wrap it up.
All right, so I'm introducing the
Let's say
who's going first?
Yeah,
who's going first?
You are. You say thanks again to Chris for coming on and give the time, Dan.
Yeah, I need the time.
And every mic's muted. Every mic's muted.
So we're at 51 minutes, 15 seconds.
All right. All right, one sec.
Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1. All right, thanks again to Chris Peters for coming on. That was a hell of an interview, boys. I don't know about you, but that was very insightful. So hopefully,
oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Hopefully not too long before we speak with him again. But without further ado, let's get to our weekly segment of What the Puck. So, first of all, I'm gonna go with Gabe Landeskog. This is a 2-in-1. It's Gabe Landeskog and Luke Witkowski. They were both victims of suspensions at the hands of Matthew Tkachuk. So it's just kind of like, how does he keep getting on these guys' skin, Matthew Tkachuk? It's unbelievable. He's what? I think he's 21, 22. I don't know how old. I don't have it in front of me, but that's just bad. You're veterans in the league. You can't let this kid get under your skin. What the hell, guys? Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I don't really I don't know how he does it consistently. You'd think after a little while they would
He's only 19, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Worse.
But still, you would think that somebody would. Well, yeah.
We can in Canada.
His dad.
Yeah, that's what I said. I guess he could.
But with what the puck is going to be the new slashing rule. It's happening kind of all over the league. You're getting like little bullshit calls that never really were an issue, even just a year ago, and now they're getting called almost immediately. And obviously, all of us as Hawks fans, it kind of in a way cost us the game against Tampa. It gave Tampa a power play in overtime, which they scored on. Schmaltzy just kind of was trying to stick check the guy to, kind of break up the attempted shot, and the ref called it. But it happens to everybody too. I believe that exact same game, the Lightning had a slashing call and the Hawks scored on the power play. I understand that they're trying to protect players from getting hurt. But there's a difference between two-handing someone in the wrist and the hands and, kind of just a simple stick check, defensive sort of play. So, I think the NHL really needs to figure their shit out because it's actually kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, I think, increased scoring in the game, though, because guys are, I think – guys have a little more opportunity to freewheel in the middle of the ice. And, obviously it's an advantage for skilled forwards when, you're not getting slashed every play. But I've got two What the Pucks. I'll briefly touch on one. Radko Gudas, it's been a few days since that's happened. It's been a little bit since our last episode. But Radko Gudas, the dude's a bastard. You'd think after he got Superman punched by Kevin Bieksa and, his history, he just stopped being a damn bastard on the ice. And what's he do? He Paul Bunyan's a guy and he gets a 10-game suspension. What an idiot. But the Superman punch leads into my number one What the Puck of the week is stop fighting Kevin Bieksa. He is straight wrecking dudes out there. He's landed 2 Superman punches in as many weeks, I believe. Radko Gudas and Andrea from the Kings the other night. I mean, just one time bang, just out cold basically on the ice. I mean, just devastating fights. It's just remarkable. That's really hard to do on skates, and he's a tough son of a bitch. So, What the Puck? Stop fighting Kevin Bieksa.
Stop fighting.
I kind of want him to keep doing it, though, because if he keeps doing that, someone's going to dodge it and just knock him the fuck out.
I was going to say, yeah, someone's going to figure it out.
I fucking hate Kevin Bieksa.
I can't stand Kevin Bieksa either. On a weird side note, though, props to who was the guy on the Kings that got knocked out by him?
Andreoff.
He got up almost immediately and wanted to keep on fighting, which I think is pretty remarkable because, he got freaking wrecked. That punch
that's why concussion
knocked him over. Yeah, but he immediately got up and was like, where'd he go? And the ref's like, no, dude, you just got your shit pushed in. The fight's over.
Yeah. Yep. So that wraps up What the Puck. And just one last thing before we go. We're going to do a quick little stick tap. On the 27th on Monday night was a Hockey Fights Cancer Night at the United Center. The Blackhawks, before the game in a pre-game ceremony, honored the fans who have relatives, friends, acquaintances, whoever that might be fighting cancer. Players offering their thoughts on that, wearing pink jerseys and warm-ups. They brought out Eddie Olczyk before the game with someone who's currently a young girl. I believe she was like 8 or 9 years old, who's currently undergoing it. So hard to imagine there was a dry eye in the arena there the other night. So just a stick tap to the Blackhawks, and let's find a cure for cancer.
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, boys. Thank you for joining me. Oh, fuck. Cut that part. Someone end it. I can't talk anymore.
Time.
I'll give you the time, and you can end it here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 57 minutes, 41 seconds.
All right, Nick, are you down for the count?
Yeah, just you end it.
All right, 3, 2, 1. And with that'll wrap it up for the November 29th edition of Go with the Flow. Thanks again, Chris Peters. Awesome interview. Follow him on Twitter. Really insightful guy. Good stuff. Great writer. So with that, I'll see you boys next week.
All right, fellas. We'll see you next week.
Excited. Peace.